It was a bright, sunny afternoon, and the streets were buzzing with life. People hurried along the sidewalks, some in suits, some in casual clothes, each focused on their own path. Among the crowd walked a rich man, dressed in an expensive suit, his shoes shining with perfection. He was a man of power, his every step calculated, his thoughts consumed by meetings and decisions that affected entire companies. Beside him walked his young son, a boy of no more than 8, dressed in a simple shirt and trousers, his eyes wide with curiosity as they walked down the busy city street. The rich man's name was Mr. Williams. He was a successful businessman, well-respected, and known for his hard work and sharp mind. His son, Tommy, had grown up in a world of luxury, large houses, expensive toys, and people who bowed to his father. Tommy had everything a boy could want, and yet there was a part of him that didn't feel complete. He often felt something was missing, but he didn't know what. As they walked, Mr. Williams chatted on his phone, making deals, discussing figures, and ignoring the world around him. Tommy, on the other hand, was looking at everything with wide eyes. The busy streets, the tall buildings, the cars honking as they passed, and the people rushing from place to place. It was a world full of motion and noise, but Tommy couldn't help but notice something that his father didn't. Sitting by the side of the road, almost hidden behind a large, cracked building, was a woman. Her clothes were torn, and her face was dirty. She had long, unkempt hair, and her hands were rough from years of hard work. Her eyes, though, were the most striking. They held a depth of pain, wisdom, and something else, a kind of quiet beauty that was hard to describe. She sat with her back against the wall, her knees drawn up to her chest, and her hands resting in her lap. Tommy's attention was immediately drawn to her. He slowed his pace, his little feet making small steps as he looked at her. He felt something inside him, a pull, like he knew her somehow, even though they had never met. He could see the sadness in her eyes, but also a warmth that made him feel strangely comforted. "Dad, stop!" Tommy's voice broke through Mr. Williams' busy phone call. "What is it, Tommy?" Mr. Williams asked, irritated at being distracted. He turned to look at his son, who was staring at the woman. "Look at her, Dad," Tommy whispered. "She's beautiful." Mr. Williams paused for a moment, confused. He followed Tommy's gaze to the woman sitting by the side of the road. For a second, he saw her dirty clothes, her worn-out shoes, her face that seemed to have seen years of hardship. He couldn't see anything beautiful about her. To him, she was just another beggar, another person living on the streets, someone who had fallen through the cracks of society. "She's just a beggar, Tommy," Mr. Williams said, his voice cold. "You don't want to waste your time on people like that." "But she's still beautiful, Dad," Tommy insisted, his voice soft but firm. "I can see it." Mr. Williams was taken aback. Why would his son, who had been surrounded by wealth and luxury, see beauty in someone like her? To Mr. Williams, beauty was something that came with money and status, something that was earned through hard work and success. It was found in the elegant suits, the grand houses, and the people who lived in them. People like him, who had worked hard and climbed the social ladder, were the ones who were beautiful in his world. The beggar woman, still unaware of the conversation taking place nearby, sat quietly, her eyes now looking down at her hands. She seemed lost in her thoughts, as if she had given up on the world that passed by her each day. But there was something in the way she held herself, the way her eyes seemed to reach out beyond the dirt and the rags she wore. It was as if she knew something the rest of the world didn't, as if she had seen the truth about life. Tommy's gaze stayed fixed on her for a few more moments before he reluctantly turned back to his father. The rich man, still lost in his own world, continued to walk. But Tommy's heart was heavy, a feeling he couldn't explain, a feeling that something about that woman was important, something he needed to understand. As they walked away, the beggar woman looked up just for a second and caught Tommy's eyes. She smiled softly, a knowing smile, as if she had been waiting for him. For a brief moment, time seemed to slow, and Tommy felt a connection, a bond he couldn't explain. But just as quickly, the moment passed, and the rich man and his son disappeared into the crowd. Little did they know, that brief encounter would change everything. The woman was not just a beggar, and Tommy was not just any child. Their paths had crossed for a reason, and the story that was about to unfold would challenge everything the rich man thought he knew about the world. The next day, as the sun hung high in the sky, Mr. Williams and Tommy found themselves walking down the same street once again. The city was as busy as ever, with cars honking, people shouting, and the usual rush of life. Mr. Williams had a meeting scheduled, and his mind was already focused on the important discussions ahead. He was ready to forget about yesterday, about the beggar woman, and the strange comment Tommy had made. To him, it was all just a momentary distraction, nothing more. But Tommy couldn't forget. As they walked, Tommy kept his eyes on the street, looking for the familiar sight of the beggar. He couldn't explain it, but he felt as if there was something he needed to do, something that connected him to that woman. He didn't understand it, but the feeling was too strong to ignore. "Dad," Tommy spoke up, his voice soft but full of curiosity. "What if she's really important?" Mr. Williams looked down at his son, confused. "What do you mean, Tommy? She's just a beggar. Don't waste your time thinking about her." Tommy's eyes dropped to the ground, his footsteps slowing as he glanced around, trying to spot the woman. But she wasn't there. He sighed, feeling disappointed. Why was she so important to him? Was he just imagining things? He shook his head, trying to push the thoughts away, but the feeling of longing didn't fade. As they continued walking, something unusual happened. There at the corner of the street, just around the bend, Tommy spotted a familiar figure sitting by the sidewalk. It was her, the beggar woman. Tommy's heart raced. He didn't hesitate this time. He gently tugged on his father's sleeve, urging him to stop. "Dad, there she is." Mr. Williams followed his son's gaze, his expression changing from confusion to annoyance. He didn't understand why Tommy was so fixated on this woman. But despite his irritation, he reluctantly stopped and looked at her. This time, she was sitting a little further down the street, a little more visible to the public. Her head was bowed low, her hands folded in her lap, and she looked like she was waiting for something or someone. Tommy's gaze didn't leave her. He felt something tugging at him, urging him to go closer. He stepped toward her, his father still standing behind, watching with a mix of disbelief and frustration. "Why are you going to her again, Tommy?" Mr. Williams asked, his voice cold. But Tommy didn't respond. He was already walking closer to the beggar, his feet moving of their own accord. He felt a deep pull inside him, as if his very soul was being drawn toward her. When Tommy reached the beggar, he stood there for a moment, unsure of what to say. The woman, sensing his presence, slowly raised her head. Their eyes met once more, and this time, Tommy didn't look away. The beggar's gaze was soft, almost serene, but there was a depth in her eyes that Tommy had never seen in anyone before. She was older, yes, but there was something in her that felt wise. Something beyond her years, beyond the years of hardship she must have endured. The woman smiled gently. "You came back," she said, her voice calm and soothing, as if she had been expecting him. Tommy felt a strange sense of comfort in her voice. He couldn't explain it, but he knew she wasn't like anyone else he had met. There was a warmth to her, a light that shone through her rough exterior. She wasn't a beggar, at least not in the way the world saw her. I wanted to see you again," Tommy said quietly, feeling his heart race. The beggar chuckled softly, as if she understood. "I knew you would. You have a good heart, little one." Tommy's brow furrowed. "How do you know that?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached into her torn bag and pulled out something wrapped in old cloth. She held it out to him, her eyes meeting his. "This is for you," she said, her voice soft but firm. Tommy hesitated for a moment, unsure of what to do, but something in her expression made him trust her. He took the cloth from her hands, and when he unwrapped it, he found an old, worn-out photograph, a portrait of a woman with strikingly familiar eyes. "Ooh, who is she?" Tommy asked, his voice trembling with curiosity. The beggar's smile deepened. "She is someone who has been lost for a long time, little one. But she's also someone who you must never forget." Tommy stared at the photograph, his mind racing. He felt an inexplicable connection to the woman in the picture. Something deep inside him seemed to recognize her, but he couldn't place why. Mr. Williams, now standing behind Tommy, watched the exchange in silence. He was about to call Tommy back when the beggar woman spoke again. "She will come to you in time," she said softly, almost as if reading his mind. "Everything is connected." Tommy felt a shiver run down his spine. The words were strange, cryptic, but somehow they made sense to him. He couldn't explain it, but he knew he had to keep the photograph, to hold on to whatever mystery the beggar had started. Without saying another word, Tommy turned and walked back toward his father, the photograph tightly clutched in his hand. He didn't know it yet, but his life was about to change in ways he could never have imagined. The next morning, Tommy woke up early, his mind racing with the thoughts of the beggar woman and the strange photograph she had given him. It was a cloudy day, the sky gray and heavy with the promise of rain. As he lay in bed, staring at the old photograph, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was calling him. Something deep inside him told him that this wasn't just some random encounter. It was something much bigger, something that would change his life forever. He got up quickly, his excitement growing. He looked at the picture again, studying the woman's face. Her eyes were soft, but there was a strength in them that Tommy couldn't quite explain. She seemed so familiar, yet so distant. Who was she? And why did he feel like he needed to know more about her? As he ate breakfast, his father was busy on the phone discussing work. Mr. Williams didn't notice the quiet intensity in his son's eyes. He was too absorbed in his own world to see the change in Tommy. But Tommy could feel it. Something was shifting inside him. He couldn't stop thinking about the beggar woman and her cryptic words, "She will come to you in time." What did that mean? Who was the woman in the photograph? After breakfast, Tommy decided to go back to the street where he had met the beggar woman. His father was distracted, so he slipped out of the house unnoticed, determined to find answers. The city was the same as it had been the day before, full of noise and life, but Tommy didn't pay much attention to it. He was focused on the street ahead of him, his heart racing with anticipation. He had to find the beggar woman again. He had to know why she had given him the photograph and what it meant. When he arrived at the same street corner, he looked around, but the woman wasn't there. Tommy's heart sank. He had hoped she would be waiting for him, but there was no sign of her. He stood there for a moment, feeling lost. Had he imagined it all? Was it just a strange dream? But then, out of the corner of his eye, Tommy saw something. A small figure sitting on the steps of an old building just a few feet away. It was the beggar woman. She was sitting quietly, her eyes closed as if she were lost in thought. Tommy's heart leapt. He walked over to her slowly, unsure of what to say. When she heard his footsteps, she opened her eyes and smiled, as if she had been waiting for him all along. "You came back," she said softly, her voice as gentle as ever. "I knew you would." Tommy felt a strange sense of comfort in her words. "I couldn't stop thinking about you," he said, his voice trembling. "About the photograph. Who is she? Why do I feel like I know her?" The beggar woman nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. "That woman in the photograph is part of your story, Tommy. She's connected to you in ways you don't yet understand." Tommy frowned. "But how? Why do I feel like she's important? Like I've met her before?" The beggar's smile grew faint, almost wistful. "You have, little one. Not in this life, but in another. In time, you'll see. But for now, I can give you something more." Tommy looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" Without saying another word, the beggar woman reached into the folds of her tattered clothes and pulled out a small, weather journal. It looked old, the pages yellowed with age. She handed it to Tommy with a look of knowing in her eyes. "This is a gift," she said softly. "It holds the answers you seek. But remember, you must read it with an open heart." Tommy took the journal in his hands, feeling the weight of it. It seemed so ordinary, yet there was something about it that felt significant. He glanced at the beggar woman, who nodded as if to say, "Take it." He opened the first page, his fingers brushing against the delicate paper. The words inside were written in neat, careful handwriting, but they were in a language Tommy didn't recognize. The letters looked foreign, yet there was something strangely familiar about them, as if they were calling out to him. "Don't worry," the beggar woman said, sensing his confusion. "In time, you will understand what it says. It will come to you when you are ready." Tommy closed the journal and looked up at the woman, his mind spinning with questions. Why are you helping me? Who are you, really? The beggar woman's eyes softened. I'm someone who has been lost for a long time, someone who has seen the world through the eyes of the forgotten. But now, my purpose is to help you see beyond the surface. You have a journey ahead of you, one that will change everything. Tommy felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't understand it all, but he knew one thing for certain. His life was no longer the same. The beggar woman, with her cryptic words and the mysterious journal, had opened a door that Tommy would have to walk through, no matter what it led to. As he turned to leave, the beggar woman called out to him. Remember, Tommy, everything is connected.